the Pledge of Allegiance when we were in elementary school, we had to say that every morning when school starts for the day. We had to say the Pledge of Allegiance. In first grade, we're learning this. Um, they give you incentive by if you by giving you a little tiny American flag if you could say it uh, by memory. Yeah. It took me a long time, but I finally got mine. Yeah, but see what it does is it's brainwashing you, so you become really what do you call it? Attached to the flag. Yeah, emotionally. I don't even remember that today. Yeah, I just remember I pledge allegiance uh, to the flag, to the republic for which it stands. Yeah, for Richard stands. Hey. In Lakota country, there's a last name like that. Yeah, Stands. That's just. I know a guy who has that name. Stands. That's his last name. Oh man! I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic of Richard Stands. No, his name wasn't Richard, but his last name was Stands. For which it stands, and I don't know what happens, what comes after that. Yeah, I pledge allegiance to this flag and to the republic for which it stands. Uh, there's other things that I remember. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And may the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Amen. Hey. No, it doesn't go like that. I'm gonna Google that. I'm curious. How close was I? Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, because it changed throughout the years. Yeah. So when I was a little kid, that's the 1960s, and I think in the 1970s it changed. Um, yeah, the first version in 1892. Okay, the first version was I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That was 1892. Then from 1892 to 1923, it was I pledge allegiance to my flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and then from 1923 to 1954, it stated, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, that's what it says from until 1923 to 1954. Excuse me. Okay, and then from 1954 to I guess now, it says, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So you see how it evolves, yeah? First it says to my flag, and then it evolves to the flag, and then the word flag is capitalized, and it says in the beginning it says and the republic for which it stands, and that changed to and to the republic for which it stands, and and then when it says one nation In 1954, nation is capitalized and also under God is added. Everything else is the same. Yeah, crazy. But I think in some schools they change things too. Yeah, I mean, in some states, I mean, um, as I know there were a lot of people that were against the under God part. I remember that there were people that wanted to change that. You have to put your hand over your heart and you say this. Yeah, you face the American flag and you say this pledge. Yeah, you're doing this from the first day of school. You're learning how to do this, and so you get very attached. Yeah, and then as you learn patriotic songs like the Star Spangled Banner, the national anthem, America the Beautiful, which is the same melody as the British national anthem, God Save the Queen. For us, it's America the Beautiful. Um, and Yankee Doodle Dandy and Battle Hymn of the Republic and oh, there's so many, yeah. So every morning, one student gets to choose which song they're going to sing. So we all sing the we say the Pledge of Allegiance and we all sing the song. Then the day begins. Yeah, the school day begins. Every morning it's like that. And in elementary school. So by the time you get to after you get older, you have all these emotional attachments to the flag. So it stays with you forever, basically. In 2006, I had to renew my passport. So because it's every 10 years, yeah, when you're an American citizen. Um, I renewed my passport and I went to the embassy. And this is 2006, yeah, 2006, the year 2006. And I was still not speaking German too good. I was having a little bit, it's, adjusting to the German culture and things like that. Yeah, I was doing my best to do that, trying to fit in, because this is Germany, yeah? And uh, I had to go to the embassy, even the U.S. embassy, to take in my old passport and my application and photo for my new one. So I went into the embassy. Excuse me. This was the first time that I ever went to the embassy office in Berlin. Walked through security, and it's all soldiers, yeah, standing there, and I felt so good. It's like, whew, um, even though it's Germany, this part is America. So I was like, whew. I was relieved for some reason. Yeah. Then I walked down the hallway to the office to, turn in my application. And in the hallway was an American flag proudly displayed. And I about cried. I put my hand on my heart and was like, oh, say, can you see? She, the woman I was with, she was like, "Man, you're crazy." And I didn't even remember the Pledge of Allegiance, but I remembered the song. Yeah. Oh man, that's so funny. But I really felt good. I was all emotional. Oof, I'm on American. It's Germany, yes, but I'm in this building. It is America. The laws of America are in this building. I didn't want to leave the building. I didn't want to leave that flag. Yeah. You see how effective the brainwashing is? I'm a Native American. I should be despised at that flag because under that flag, the United States military annihilated millions of Native American people. Yeah, through through smallpox blankets, through uh, early in the morning attacks of camps. Yeah, uh, sterilization of Native American women in the early 1900s, all the way up to the 1950s. Um, you know, I should be hating that flag. But because of what you experience in these public schools as a little boy, as a little child, all this gets brainwashed into you, and you learn a candy coated version of American history in which America can do no wrong. And that's all you hear. That's a brainwashing. So I think that's wrong. I think it's okay to teach people to be, have respect and loyalty for your country, but I think you should do it in a more intelligent way to show that nobody is perfect and that perfection is an illusion. That we all make mistakes, and sometimes they're horrible mistakes. Yeah, but we try our best to make it right. Yeah, and we may not do a good job of it, but we're trying. Yeah, we're trying. And I think if people can see that, they they won't have so much stress about themselves. Yeah, so that they can accept that they are not perfect and that they, will make mistakes, but that there's a way to work yourself out of it. I think people need to learn that as young children too. It wasn't until I got into university where I started to learn more of real American history, where professors were saying this was a war that America should not have been in, or what America did to Native Americans was horrendous. The first time I heard that was in university, where those history professors were telling the truth, where you learned about the concentration camps in America that were set up for Japanese people during World War II. They were put on buses and taken to these camps. They only had a few minutes. So they left everything behind. Yeah, their belongings, their furniture, their job, their clothes, their food, everything. And they were taken to these concentration camps in America. And whatever was left behind, people just went and ransacked it, stole everything from them. When they were released from these camps, they went back. There was other people living in their homes. Or things were gone, or they had to start all over again. We never learned that in American history in school. I learned that in the movie. Yeah, there was a movie in the 1980s that was talking about that. Excuse me. It was about that, and I thought, oh, I didn't even know this happened. That was during World War II. And when you're a native person, you never really learn what happened on the reservation. You never learn that it was a prison. You never learn that your own language and spirituality was illegal until 1978. I'll explain to you that a little bit later, okay? But see, what I'm saying is when you're in high and as far as high school, you never learn the truth of American history. Yeah, you never learn how the first uh, European immigrants to North America. You never really learn how bad they were. Some of them were good people, okay, but the more that came, the worse they became, and their dealings with Native people turned. They started okay, but they turned for the worst very fast after that. You never learned that in American history. So what you learn, you know, is like, oh yeah, people came from Europe seeking religious freedom, freedom of religious expression, and more freedoms, and so they founded this country and they set up towns, and eventually they spread out west. You never learned that. Well, hey, wait a minute. There were already people there. So what happened? You never learned that. You never learned that there was a tribe of Indians that was almost wiped out because of they were given blankets filled with smallpox. You never learned that. So you think everything is all happy? Yeah. So when you see the John Wayne World War II movies, you're rooting for America. They kill the evil Japanese and the evil. Well, not Nazi Germany was evil. Yeah. Um, but you see you see this as a good thing. At the end, they make it so emotional. They fly the American flag, and you really get into it. And so by the time you're an adult, and you're brainwashed. What else is America doing to us subconsciously that we're not aware of? You see what I mean? It starts when you're a child in school, and what else are they doing that we're not aware of? We think when our soldiers are going to fight in Desert Storm or what's the other one? Um, the Gulf War, whatever it's called. We think they're fighting for freedom and liberty. How are they doing that when they're not even in America? They're not fighting for our freedom or our liberty. They're fighting because of oil. It's to keep some families rich or make some oil families richer, more rich. And America uses this candy store front as saying they're heroes because they're fighting for our liberty and freedom. They don't need to be there because it's not doing any good. It's making the situation worse. Because when they overthrow a government over there in the Mid East, it gets worse. You just have to look at Iraq. It's in worse condition than it ever was. They did not bring democracy. And you have to try to understand something too. When you have a society, a culture who's lived a certain way for many, 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 many years, they are not prepared mentally and emotionally for living in a democracy. So when you overthrow their leader thinking you're bringing freedom to them, they don't know what to do. This is not part of their culture. And so the situation gets worse, and this is how ISIS was created. Because the people don't, they can't fit in the democracy. It doesn't work for them. In Iraq, there's three major groups, and the government was supposed to be representative of all three groups, but it didn't turn out that way. Instead, the government was controlled by one group, and they ousted all the military officers who were, because most of the military officers belonged to a different group. So the group that took over the government, they or that controlled the majority of the government, they ousted all these military leaders, these generals and high-ranking military officials in Iraq. They took them out, and so they filled them with people from their own group, as politicians. Yeah. So the ousted former military leaders decided to go against the government, and this is the birth of ISIS. So how did it get to that situation? America came in and invaded Iraq. That's what started everything. So technically, America created ISIS because America created that situation for which ISIS developed, from which ISIS formed, or IS, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, under Saddam Hussein, it was horrendous, but it worked. There was a division, but they had representation. Yes, he killed a lot of people, but he had to do it to keep them in line. It's a very, very harsh culture. If we say, "Oh, he's such a bad man, he killed all the," see, we're being ethnocentric. We're judging their culture based on our cultural standards. That's something called ethnocentrism. That's what the Christians have done to Indian people, to the point that today most native people are Christian or Christian influenced. And I'll explain that in bigger detail a little bit later. Okay? So we have this, you know, this group of really, really horrible terrorists that we really are saying they're the enemy. We have to eliminate them now. It's funny because we created them. Yeah. So I know people from Iraq. Seriously, they fled Iraq. These are doctors now. Okay, these are not poor people. These are doctors. These are doctors who say that Iraq is in the worst situation than it ever was before. When America came, they thought it was going to be really good, but then America uh, seemed to favor one of the three groups, and then that group promised America they would include the other two groups in the government, but they didn't keep that promise. And so they made the government entirely of this one sect, this one sect of Islam. There's different sects of Islam, okay? And so the government became only one group, and then they ousted all the military people from that because those military people belonged to another group, and they put their own people in that place, and so that ousted group was very pissed off, and so they kept united, yeah, and they formed their own army, and that is ISIS. So America created ISIS. Even these people in Iraq say that. See, it was really bad under Saddam, but it's worse now, they said. We're not ready for democracy. That's not part of our religion. Their government is religion based on their religion. Democracy does not fit that. So you cannot say that America was liberating Iraq when they invaded. They weren't. They were in, they were they were making it possible for one group in Iraq to enslave the other two. So the situation got worse. Under Saddam, there was a balance. Yeah, when they overthrew him and hung him, that balance went to hell. One group rose to power and enslaved the other two groups. The situation is worse. There's no liberty there. There's no freedom there. That's why people are leaving. So the military is not bringing freedom. They're not bringing peace. They're not bringing anything good. Several years ago, we had this Arab uprising. All these North African countries, the Arab Muslims were overthrowing their governments, and people thought, "Oh, this is cool." They want to be free. It didn't even turn out that way. Situations got worse. Yeah, they threw out Gaddafi, but that country is even worse than it was before. Same thing in Egypt. They tried to do it in Syria and it didn't work, and the situation got worse. The military is not doing anything good over there. They're not there for freedom. And when they're dying, when they're getting killed, they don't even have to be getting killed. They don't belong over there. The reason why they're there is to protect oil interests for certain families. Those wars are about oil. There's an old movie, science fiction movie. I think it comes from a book. The movie bombed, but I liked it. Yeah, and I know it was a kind of a depressing movie, but I saw it in the movie theater. Yeah, but there's one thing that always stuck in my mind about that movie, and there's a line in the movie that says, "He who controls the spice controls the universe." And in this part of the universe, there's a certain kind of spice that everybody wants, and it does it can make you, it does it enlightens you, it expands your mind, it gives you a power, a certain power, and people want that. Yeah, and so whoever controls that controls the universe. That always stuck with me, and I thought, is there something like that on our planet that everybody wants? Whoever controls it controls the world. So I was thinking about that. What could that be? Then I got my first girlfriend and I lost interest. Then it wasn't until years later and I saw the movie on HBO and I started thinking about that again. I was thinking, I think that would be oil. Whoever controls the oil controls the world. And I think that's correct. Look at the controversies today. the Dakota Access Pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline, both of them are going to be built. Because and if America says, okay, the more oil we have, see, right now America is saying we don't want to be dependent on oil coming from the Mid East, and I think that's bullshit. I think the agenda, the American agenda, is to find as much oil as possible on the North American continent, plus control what's in the Mid East, to control it all, to have a monopoly. Then you control the world. But you can do this in a covert way. I think that's the American agenda. That's why America is over there. But they have to sell it, yeah? They have to sell it to the public so the public supports it. So how do you do that? Well, you can make those countries look like bad people. You can cause a terror attack within America and make it look like those people did it, to create sentiment against those people, to invade them, and say you're liberating the people that are living in oppression over there by bringing peace and freedom. Is it working? No. Instead, the situation's got worse and people are leaving. Made the situation worse. But it makes sense. Why is America over there? It makes sense. When you look at the reason, you know, to make it oil, then it makes sense that, why they are there, and and this is how it is. Yeah. So um, that's what I said earlier. What else is America doing? And we think it's a good thing because they present it to us in a candy-coated version. So we say, "Oh yes, our soldiers are heroes. They come back dead." We say, "Yes, we're heroes. We're sad, but they died serving their country, the greatest honor of all." You know, and I say bullshit because they didn't die there in honor. They died there unnecessarily. It didn't have to be that way, but it's because of oil. Just look at the past in American history. They did this to Indians too. Early 1800s, the military dressed up as Indians, put oil all over their bodies to make themselves look dark, and they attacked farmers, killed them, made it look like Indians did it. They took pictures. They told reporters their version of what happened, and that got published in American media, and the entire country was calling for the extermination of Indian people. See, they did that to us. Now they're doing that to the Muslims by faking the attack in New York City on September 11th and making it look like Muslims did it. They say terrorists, but when people see the story, the people don't see terrorists, the people see Muslims. So they develop an anti Muslim sentiment. So they think all Muslims are this way. Just like in the 1800s when America thought all Indians or bad. Excuse me. See, it's a brainwashing. We're presented false information, and we begin receiving that false information. It all begins with that Pledge of Allegiance in elementary school. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, how far this can go. The same thing happens in religions too. It's all controlling the mind by getting to you emotionally, strong emotion.